Dreams may toss and turn you now. They will vanish away like your dad's best jeans, denim blue, fading up to the sky. And though you want them to last forever, you know we never will. You know we never will. And the patches make the goodbye harder still.
KLYC, McMinnville, Newburgh, and Salem.
Gotta move, but you need help? Do you have a last-minute move within a 60-mile radius of McMinnville? Call Hood to Coast Labor Force across from Mobil Gas Station in McMinnville. For only $50 per hour, a two-man crew will arrive and bring all the equipment they need to move you and your belongings. If you need a truck, rent one from Hood to Coast at a 10% discount. Call 503-474-1881, 474-1881. In the weather forecast, chance of drizzle continuing early today, and then, mostly sunny skies after that clears. Highs today should be near 61 degrees. Sunday, mostly sunny after some clouds, highs to the mid-60s. Memorial Day, again, chance of early drizzle in the day. Highs in the mid-60s. Overnight lows in the next 3 to 4 days should be near 50. Hey, right now in McMinnville, it's 59 degrees.
On KLYC 1260 AM, streaming on Facebook and live on AM radio. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, and good morning, Yamhill County. This is a live show. We're right here out in the wilderness.
It feels like that sometimes, doesn't it?
But we do have phone accessibility. So if you have any questions during the show, don't be the least bit shy about calling us.
What's the number, Ray?
It's 503-435-1260.
One more time, Ray.
503-435-1260.
That's good.
You just want to see if I can do it twice in a row, huh?
Well, it seemed like it was harder the second time, so I was justified in that humor.
Okay, yeah, good point.
So anyway, good morning, good weekend.
Yeah.
It is
Memorial Day weekend.
We're here in McMinnville and it's cloudy.
Yeah, marine push.
Very good, and we talk about that sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just a low cloud cover. We're expecting just partly cloudy today, right? Is that what today is?
That's it. If you feel moisture falling out of the sky, it's not really rain. It's just cloud condensation.
Ah, is that
How's-
fog? What are we, right,
It's a
is that
drip.
rain? Right. So we've got full overcast predicted here for most of Yamhill County. High of mid 60s, 65.
Yep.
And tomorrow partly cloudy. So with that sun peeking out tomorrow, we can expect about 71. I really need glasses now.
If you want sunshine today, right now,
Right.
you have to go up above above Detroit Dam or up into the mountains anywhere above the cloud cover, and it's a beautiful day up there.
Has to do with dew point, I'm assuming. Is that what we're
Well,
looking at
the
there?
clouds, they come in, and because of the low pressure front, they come floating in over the top of us, and they make this little layer, and it's just it's a slather.
Thank you.
That's all it is, and
Uh-huh.
above it is really a beautiful spring day.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get that here. However, the it's going to be nice enough, particularly tomorrow, and then Monday we're looking at the exact same thing as tomorrow.
Yep.
71, partly cloudy, with starting to clear up Tuesday, Wednesday clear, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all clear, and that means that we're gonna start pushing back into the 80s starting next Friday.
Your plants will be happy.
Will they be happy?
They will be happy.
Because they will have gotten a little bit of moisture, a little bit of
Yeah.
humidity in the air, and then they're going to get those drying conditions. Those roots are going to just start to push everything back up into the plant itself.
The
and,
ground is warm and wet.
Yeah,
A little bit of sunlight to create the suction, if you will.
I will. You're talking about transpiration.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the nitrogen cycle
Yeah.
later on in the show.
We'll hit that later.
But it's always nice to talk about earthly cycles. So anyway, so that's the weather that's coming up, and particularly let's talk about early into June, because you brought up a common saying here in Oregon, which is
The fact that it does not quit raining until after the Rose Parade.
it's so significant that
It's a weather phenomena that just you can almost bet on.
it's as though they planned this parade thing around the rains stopping.
It's well, instead of having a rain dance, we have a rain parade.
It's a rose parade, though.
It's a Rose Parade.
Yeah. Okay, so coming up, we were mentioning that it's going to be really clear. Rains aren't going to come back until a little bit after the first week in June, and so then
only
we've got to deal
slightly.
with that. The rains, they did not seem to have any effect on my grapes maturing.
Nope.
The flowering process that I was mentioning, and I'm already at almost half past where the grapes start to develop and the flowers go away, and that's a really important milestone with grape growing, because it's essentially 100 days from that day that the grapes are going to harvest. And if we're looking at 100 days from now, it was middle of September, something like that.
Be
which
an
is
early harvest.
exactly what it was last year. So
Yeah, and a good harvest though too, because there's a good grape set going on.
it does. I have significantly good grape set. Yes, thank you.
Friend of mine, and last night we were downtown, and he was talking about he's got the little BB grapes starting.
Exactly, and once you get more than half of your BB grapes, as you call them, then the clock starts. It's just 100 days, bam, go.
Yep.
So that also speaks to early caneberry and early cherry harvest also as well, because the caneberries. So we're talking about the raspberries, the blackberries, and I'm looking at my raspberries right now, and they're hitting the halfway point too, because they're about half their size, and they're starting to change into their color. In grape terminology, they call it veraison. I don't know what it's called in
Called
caneberry.
what?
Veraison.
Veraison.
So when you get the grapes turn from green and they start to turn their color into purple or white or whatever they're going to be, it's called veraison. And so my raspberries are experiencing the similar thing.
That's a cool word.
Isn't it? Yeah, you can. It's a firstborn name, veraison. So anyway, so on my caneberries, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at that turning point, and I'm looking. to hurry up and get those before the birds do, because the birds are setting up for the invasion after veraison. You know what I'm saying?
I know now. Yeah. Well, you look at even the cherry trees on people's property downtown. They got nice big green cherries, and they're starting to set up to be
delicious.
Right.
You've got your eye on them on how to do that. I haven't gone out and scouted out my cherries on the property, but it is probably something I should hurry up and do. Usually that happens around the 4th of July, but this is much
thinking
earlier.
maybe a week or so early.
Yeah.
It would be really nice. The faster they come into the farmer's market, the happier I am.
Oh.
I agree. When they come off the island,
What's amazing about the ones that come off of the farmer's market, though, is they're so much bigger than anything that I think that I could ever possibly grow, because they are the size of apples, especially the initial set, and I think it's just to set you up for, hey, look what I can grow, because they are big, because with the Master Gardener's booth, it's so close to the cherries that every year I'm just amazed at how big those things are.
Well, the cherries get there a little bit earlier than local cherries, because they're actually the ones I really like, the great big red juicy ones. They're grown over by the Dalles up in the Columbia Gorge, where
I know where that is.
Yep. So the cherry season up there is maybe a month earlier than down here, because they get more warm right away. And up there, it's been glorious. It's been in the 70s, and they're just far enough east that the cloud cover stops at the tops of the mountains.
Not a heavy snowfall year.
No. Not a heavy snowfall, not a bad frost season. They're going to be great.
So you're eyeing that truck. Waiting for that to come down the road.
I'm waiting for my favorite fruit lady to show up with her truck full, yes.
And that I do not blame you for. So that is one of these benefits that we have of having this warm kind of weather that we have of late. But maybe next year we'll take a little bit harsher winter. How's that? Maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
Could be. You never know. This is going La Nina.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. It's more La Nina than El Nino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be milder.
Yep.
I hope.
So what else do we have on tap? Let's do a little teaser of ourselves. Coming up later on the show, we wanted to talk a little nitrogen cycle, as I mentioned. Yep. You've got a little bit of the arborvitae.
Yeah, I did
tree care.
Yeah, we got an issue in our neighborhood that could be an issue, but
it could not
we
be an issue.
We need to discuss it later.
Right, and then we've also got the May calendar that we can talk about, and some things that are going in the garden right now that we might be having issues. So let's talk about that when we come back. But we'll go ahead and take our first break here. And you are listening to The Root of It. We're streaming on Facebook. Ray, give out that number again.
503-435-1260. Go ahead and give us a jingle if you got any questions at all.
And this is To The Root of It, KLYC, 1260 AM.
Cleveland verdict, Ireland votes. I'm John Trout.
I therefore find the defendant not guilty of counts 1 and 2 as indicted.
Judge John O'Donnell announcing the fate of Cleveland police officer Michael Brelow. Brelow was charged with manslaughter in the deaths of Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams in 2012. Again, Judge John O'Donnell ruling not guilty on all counts.
Defendant proved by a preponderance of the evidence that he is legally excused from liability for those crimes because he caused the serious physical harm of the victims in a constitutionally reasonable effort to end an objectively reasonable perception that he and the others present were threatened by Russell and Williams with imminent serious bodily harm.
Officer Brelow could have faced 22 years in prison if convicted. Votes are still being counted in Ireland after yesterday's referendum to legalize same-sex marriage. There are early indications the measure could win approval. If it passes, Ireland would become the first country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage through a popular vote. I'm John Trout. Cut off to a Texas lake because the water's too deep.
Lake Worth has reached a depth of 596 feet, and more rain is in the forecast this weekend. The National Weather Service says another 3 inches could fall, so the city has shut down boat ramps. The city says at this depth, the wakes caused by boats could lead to flooding in buildings along the shoreline. In addition to homes along the lake, a joint reserve base sits along the shore, and the Y has a camp for children. The Dallas-Fort Worth area has received almost as much rain so far this year as all of last year. Alan Skaya, Fort Worth.
A Navy jet went into San Diego Bay. Francis Krigo witnessed the pilot ejecting.
Something went wrong, and then it sounded like a cannon, the seat ejecting. So, we were just concerned, and then we saw the police boats and ambulances and fire trucks and things like that.
The pilot ejected, recovered by local boaters. The jet is still partially submerged.
Now, kid, I know you look at me and think, man, that guy knows everything. And you're right, I do. But occasionally, even I get stumped. I know, hard to believe. But when I need help, I get it from Grainger. Grainger can solve just about anything, from finding the right products to advice on installation to troubleshooting. Grainger gets me what I need right when I need it. When a guru needs a guru, who does a guru call? Guru calls Grainger. Get it? Got it? Good. Call, click Grainger.com or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
To the Root of It on AM 1260 KLYC is brought to you by Recology's Northwest Greenland in McMinnville. It takes more than a pile of decomposing yard debris and leaves to make your soil healthy and your plants happy. That's why Recology actively manages their compost to ensure the highest level of microbial activity. The rich soil amendments promote healthy plant life in your vineyard, your nursery, your yard, and your garden. Recology's compost, which is certified for organic growing, can enhance overall soil quality, provide plants with nutrients they need to grow larger and healthier, minimize the need for chemical fertilizers and pesticides, increase your soil's ability to hold moisture and retain nutrients, feed helpful earthworms, create a buffer for your plants against common toxins in the soil, and control pH levels and support essential bacterial growth. It's more than just compost. It's food for your soil. Northwest Greenland's a Recology company. In McMinnville at 2200 Northeast Orchard Avenue. Call Recology Northwest Greenlands at 503-434-1671. 503-434-1671. Recology Northwest Greenland's a proud sponsor of To the Root of It on KLYC.
Did you know that Rock of Ages Mennonite Home provides comfortable living for the senior citizen who needs assistance with daily tasks? This beautiful home-like environment features private homes, delicious and nutritious home-styled meals, medication management, assistant with personal care, and 24-hour resident monitoring. Rock of Ages Mennonite Home is licensed with the state of Oregon as a residential care facility, but it is not licensed as a nursing facility. For more information on Rock of Ages and Valley View Retirement Village, you can visit their website at rockofagesvalleyview.com, or you can give them a call at 503-472-6212.
Kind of a mixed bag in the weekend forecast. Sorry about that. Cloudy skies this morning. Areas of drizzle to continue today. High today should be near 60 degrees. Decreasing clouds on Sunday. After the cloud kind of parts, mostly sunny skies, highs in the mid-60s. Memorial Day, chance of drizzle before 11 a.m., partly sunny after that. Tuesday, we're looking for partly sunny, highs mid-60s. 60 degrees outside right now in McMinnville.
And welcome back. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC. Ray, let's talk some nitrogen.
It's such an important chemical in everybody's lives. All living things require nitrogen, and that's why it actually is made up. It's like 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen.
Incredible, right? You'd think that we would require it to breathe more, but
it's not. Yeah, oxygen isn't a big kicker.
Right.
It's in the atmosphere, but it's a much lower percentage than nitrogen.
And the reason that I brought up nitrogen, because this week I noticed that the corn transplants that I have now in my garden, which are about 20, they started turning a little bit yellow, and I was just frustrated because I felt like I was using the right chemical. I used compost.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can have as much nitrogen as you want in the soil, but it has to be the right kind of nitrogen. It can't just be the N2 that we're talking about that's everywhere and it has to be NH3 positive or whatever. We're going to get into all of that, but the problem that's going on with my plants and my transplants right now is just is a normal thing. We have all of this nitrogen-rich soil, but we can't get to it because it's not the right kind of nitrogen, and so my corn is suffering because of that. And so I think I just need some Epsom salt, and I just put that on there, and that'll fix it. But it made me think.
Nice.
It made me think more about what else do we need to know about nitrogen.
Well, nitrogen does a whole conversion process before the plants can actually use it. The N2 that's in the atmosphere that goes into the soil, that gets transformed, bonds with a little oxygen, and then it's usable by the plants as nitrite.
And what you are talking about is the fixation process,
right?
And that's a scientific term, fixation, and particularly in this
not
way,
a nasty habit,
right? No, particularly in this way, there are three ways that you can do this. You can do it biologically through lightning. Lightning strikes create They create the NO3,
right,
which is the nitrate. And then you can do this industrially, which is the fertilizers. They create the ammonia that you put down, and that fixes it that way. So there are a few ways that we can get nitrogen into the soil, but the important thing is it's got to be an NH4+, and that's how bacteria, did you know that bacteria is actually breaking it down? I'd always been taught that with the soybeans, you plant them in the soil, and that fixes the nitrogen, and that's really great. And so I had thought that it was the plant itself doing that. Apparently, it's not the plant; it's the bacteria that attaches itself to the plant that fixes it to the soil.
The little nodules that are on like alfalfa and clover and lupins and various plants that have these little nodules on the root systems that collect the nitrogen. And people use them for cover crops for that purpose. But for it to actually be a successful cover crop, it has to be rototilled into the ground or plowed into the ground one way or the other so that gets broken up. Then the little bacteria go over and have breakfast.
And then they break it up.
They break it up, and then whatever you plant on top of it can absorb it.
There we go. And it's what's interesting. It was the part of the process that I was missing was this actually the bacteria that are attaching them to the legumes and all of the other things. Pretty fascinating. The lightning strikes also pretty fascinating to me. So each time you see a lightning strike, it's creating helpful nitrate,
making nitrites.
Right. So we've then got transformations. Nitrogen that's present in the soil is going to then also get broken up, and that's called mineralization. Another scientific term.
Yeah.
It's fun to know, and so then that breaks it up into NH4.
You're getting pretty handy with them 4-syllable words, boy.
Oh, I know. But everything seems to be a jeune of something, right?
Yeah, a jeune.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got the ammonium N that has the properties that also help. So when you hear ammonia and things like urea or uric acid, and these things are actually kind of necessary, as scary as they may sound, right?
True, and don't be frustrated if your plants are showing yellowing.
You brought in a fabulous example
like your
of
corn
this.
plants.
Right.
I've got 2 geraniums in this pot. They're planted within 5 minutes of each other. They're the same little geranium, and yet the one that's flowering and doing all of its magic has this yellow tinge to the leaves.
What's incredible to me is that you claim that these were planted at the exact same time, and what I'm looking at right now is one plant that hasn't blossomed yet, and yet it has
green.
It's green and has these big, huge, broad leaves, and then the plant that's next to it has a bunch of small little leaves.
Smaller leaves, but it's got the flowers.
It's got a big flower poking up, and then it's got the yellowing also. So it looks like it kind of got stressed and said, hurry up, got to reproduce. And the other one is like, no, man, this is chill. We can take our time. But so when we talk about the yellowing of the leaves, what's happening is nitrogen is mobile. And when we say mobile, that means it can go from part of the plant to part of the plant. Not everything can do that. No. But nitrogen does. And so you'll see this on the older leaves, on the older parts of the plant. The nitrogen is going to move to the newer parts of the plant because that's where it's needed, because that's the new growth.
These guys down here at the bottom, they're giving it up to produce this flower.
Right.
It's okay. These when the flower starts blooming, these guys can actually just be plucked off and tossed, and they will be. And
is this a problem? What do you do when you see this? You add a little bit of nitrogen maybe to the soil if you're not at the end of the process. But when you get to the end of the process, if the plant is going to die, like if they're the ones that they produce the flower and then we die, then you don't have to worry about adding any more nitrogen because it's at the end of its process. But if it's a rebloomer and it keeps going, then you're going to want to add a little bit of nitrogen, heavy phosphorus soil, because it's going to keep taking up those nutrients, and you're showing a little bit of a deficiency there. Your plant here looks like it was, I don't know, it got stressed into hurrying up, right?
I think I did it to it.
You scared it.
Yeah, I kind of slapped this sucker in life. What I did was when I planted it, because this was old soil.
Okay.
I took and mixed up a bunch of Miracle Grow, my magic juice of choice.
Right.
And I soaked them in with the Miracle Grow, which may have been a little bit of an overdosage.
Okay. So we're coming to the truth of it.
We're coming to the truth of it. That the rest of these are all doing fine because they've got enough greenage to go ahead and they're all blossoming fine and they're spreading out and doing what they're supposed to do. This Bacopa is going to be just fine.
You said a Bacopa?
Yeah.
All right, that's a fun word too.
Yeah.
It looks like you've also got some thyme ground. What is that in there?
No. This is just all Bacopa.
That is what you're getting at, is the Bacopa.
Yeah, it's fine. There's no yellowing to the leaves. It's flowering normally.
So we've got this little ground cover that is going to be hanging over, and it's going to cover your whole pot, and that's the Bacopa.
Right.
And it's got these little
white flowers.
White flowers, these trumpet flowers that are very lovely right now.
Yeah, and this will go all summer long.
There you go.
And as long as I deadhead the geraniums, they will bloom all summer long.
Yeah, that geranium, the flower that's developed there, looks like it's got a couple more days on, and then you're going to go ahead and pop that off, right?
Yeah, they just pop off the stem.
And those aren't one of those things that you throw in a bouquet, right? If you pluck that will die, or would you put that in?
You could put it in a bouquet, but they stink. They ain't a cute smelling flower like a pansy.
You know what? Keep talking because I'm going to take a whiff right here.
Yeah. No. They're pretty wretched smelling and I'm not sure. Yeah. See?
I don't know. I think that smells lovely. That's not like I don't know what a horrible smelling flower is, but maybe it's just not strong enough. Maybe that's...
once you pluck it, it'll stink.
I think once you pluck anything, it'll stink.
You'll know you got them in the house.
Right. Once you start plucking, then everything will decay and stink.
A lot of people actually like the smell of geraniums, though.
I must be one of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go over there and take a whiff of I've already forgotten what was it, botulism? What are Baracopa?
Bucopa.
Bucopa, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's right. If it ain't...
If it ain't, give us a call, 503.
Oh, Carl down there at the nursery, he'll tell me how to pronounce it.
Right. You've got the wrong accent, quite possibly.
He's my political correct plant guy. Mm-hmm. Keeps me politically correct.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about, getting back to the yellowing and the nitrogens, sometimes you can put too much nitrogen, and that's what we talked about a few times ago.
That's kind of what I think has happened to this guy. I forced it to bloom, and so it started sucking the nitrogen out of these bottom leaves.
And I'm going to tell you why I think this is because what happens is, particularly, I'm going to take the manure example. And that's when you have fresh manure and you put it on your tender tomato plants. What happens? It gets scorched, chemical burned is what it's basically called. And that's when you have too much nitrogen. The plant doesn't know what to do, but it starts to yellow. But then the tips scorch, essentially. They start to brown. And I can kind of see that actually happening here on these. So it does look like, to me, as a trained master gardener, it looks like that's what happened because you've got the scorched tips.
Well, that's exactly what's going on with this guy. For his root structure, even though they were purchased at the same time, they were planted at the same time, the root structure in this particular plant is having a bit of a struggle with my overloving.
Overloving?
Yeah, I overloved it by about 2 quarts.
Yeah. It does look like that. Okay,
so. I could have backed off about a gallon on a Miracle Grow.
Right.
Fried his little.
But it'll keep going, and
it'll be fine.
Eventually. In the long run, it will be good. Like you said, all summer long, it'll be going.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
So that is the nitrogen experience that we have. That looks like you needed to complete the nitrogen cycle with denitrification. In your
this
case.
is a good example of why a little bit of fertilizer is a good thing.
Start with a little.
Start with a little bit. Don't hammer that puppy with 3 gallons of Miracle Grow and expect it to leap up out of the pot and jump tall buildings and crawl across the deck. It ain't going to happen.
And the problem that we do have with over-nitrification, particularly in the agricultural process, is it's a term. Are you ready for the term? Eutrophication. Eutrophication. And eutrophication is the enrichment of the ecosystem with chemical nutrients.
Right.
So that's the runoff into the rivers, into the ocean, into all of these bad things. And so with that, that's what we're kind of dealing with is we're getting really good at creating these nitrates and nitrites. But the problem is the earth can't absorb them as fast as we're creating them. So we're kind of toxifying certain parts of it.
It's like a little bit of Scoresby's is a good thing.
Right. No, we are scorching the leaves.
The whole fifth will scorch your brain.
The Gulf of Mexico may be a good example, possibly, of the eutrophication.
But this guy, he'll be fine. I'll pick off the dead leaves because you can see that the new leaves that are coming in underneath, they're all nice and green, and they'll be fine. And so, don't go out and try to make them be happy too fast.
Right.
Patience with gardening. You need patience.
Yep. And with that, at 9:30, let's take a break here.
Yep.
And when we come back, we'll close things off with nitrogen. We'll get into some arborvitae. Gosh, one of those words that I didn't know until I moved to this place. So right now it is 62 degrees in McMinnville, and you're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM.
Online Northwest is your gateway to the planet. Online Northwest is Yamhill County's only locally owned and operated internet and phone service provider. Online Northwest, downtown McMinnville, has been providing local friendly service and support since 1997. Residential and business services include high-speed internet, phone, fiber solutions, web design and hosting, co-location, television, and much more. Online Northwest coverage areas include parts of Washington, Yamhill, Polk, Marion, and Tillamook counties. Call Online Northwest at 503-883-9200 or visit them at onlinenw.com for more information. Online Northwest is the internet and phone service provider for KLYC Radio. To the Root of It on AM 1260 KLYC is brought to you by Recology's Northwest Greenland in McMinnville. You know, it takes more than a pile of decomposing yard debris and leaves to make your soil healthy and your plants happy. That's why Recology actively manages their compost to ensure the highest level of microbial activity. The rich soil amendments promote healthy plant life in your vineyard, your nursery, your yard, and your garden. Recology's compost, which is certified for organic growing, can enhance overall soil quality, provide plants with nutrients they need to grow larger and healthier, Minimize the need for chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Increase your soil's ability to hold moisture and retain nutrients. Feed helpful earthworms. Create a buffer for your plants against common toxins in the soil. And control pH levels and support essential bacterial growth. It's more than just compost. It's food for your soil. Northwest Greenland's a Recology company. In McMinnville at 2200 Northeast Orchard Avenue. Call Recology Northwest Greenlands at 503-434-1671. 503-434-1671. Recology Northwest Greenlands, a proud sponsor of To the Root of It on KLYC.
Want a bright start to summer? Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Sunny Day Sale and save 30% on paints and stains, May 17th through the 25th. With colors like pool blue, organic green, and daffodil, we've got everything you need to add a splash of color. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams paint store and save. Find your nearest store at sherwinwilliams.com/sale. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
And welcome back. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM. And we're going to close a little bit things because we were talking about nitrogen and the importance of it. And in particularly, we were talking about soybeans and these legumes that go ahead and just fix the nitrogen automatically with the help of bacteria. And bacteria is then the plural, right? There we go.
Bacterium.
Maybe. There. So anyway, there's with the help of this bacteria, the soybeans and the legumes are able to take the nitrogen out of the air and then put it into the soil. But what this guy has done, and I'm looking for the name right now.
Edward Cocking.
There we go. Professor Edward Cocking. He's developed a process called N-Fix. And with N-Fix, you go ahead and you take this bacteria that's really helpful. You go ahead and you put it in a coating that you surround the seed with. And as that seed develops, the bacterium gets into every cell of the plant.
Right.
Isn't that weird?
It's just amazing to me that somebody actually thought this up,
right,
and then developed a way to make it happen.
Because there are different bacteria that do this process of fixing the nitrogen. But there's one bacterium that he's found that can actually be used for this process that he's created, this N-Fix process. And the reason that it's fascinating is because it can help with 50% of the nitrogen process. So that means that you're using at least 50% less nitrogen to fertilize a crop, and because they're taking it all in from the sun. And could you do that with corn? I mean, can you imagine if you're doing that with corn and you're doing that with...
Well, the whole purpose is to reduce costs to farmers.
Yeah.
And help control food costs.
Yeah.
And this process makes it possible to cut your fertilizer costs by 50%.
Right. So when
you're actually using what's already there more efficiently.
And what's really funny is because I can mention the eutrophication, the problem with putting too many chemicals into the earth, but
like
really,
that.
right? But really, what it comes down to is reducing the cost for the farmers, right? Because that's the only way that any of this is really going to happen. Is like if you can change the mindset by saying, "Hey, you're spending less money." Oh, yeah, let's save the earth.
No, skip the save the earth part. Right. Save the bankroll.
Right, exactly.
And that's once you save the bankroll, then it becomes a lot more efficient to save the earth.
Exactly. So this N-Fixing thing, it's been in R&D for about 10 years. It's still in R&D. There hasn't been any commercial application
Not
for
yet,
it yet,
but it will be.
But the thought that it can be done just means that it's going to be done. It just depends on how long I don't know. Sometimes it seems like the process can be stifled intentionally, fertilizer companies, but it just seems like it's taken a little bit longer. So anyway, that's N-Fixing, that's nitrogen fixing, and that's nitrogen and its whole cycle.
That's true. And let's talk about the arborvitae issue.
You want to switch gears here?
I want to segue right into something that. Because this
Tell
hedge,
me a story.
well,
Tell me a story.
The hedge over there where I live it's long. It's a couple of 100 feet long, and it's about 12 feet tall, and it's been the backyard for the back fence for lots of people for quite some time. And it started looking a little shabby last fall, so they decided to whack off the things that might be potential hazards.
And we're talking about an
Limbs.
arborvitae fence, right?
Yeah.
And because for those who aren't familiar,
it's 3 foot, 4 foot thick.
it's the fence, the natural fence of choice of the Pacific Northwest,
All
because you
over.
put these things close together. They go ahead and they just grow straight up and
And
only
they-
about 2 feet wide, or
and they
maybe
like
3.
living together.
They love it,
Yeah.
and so they'll get close in on each other, and you've got a natural fence until somebody comes by and lops them off, right?
Well, if you take and you routinely trim it, and you just trim off the ends so that it stays nice and green, it looks nice and green all the time. And then the interior of the plant goes through the normal dying, shedding process that all conifers go through, whether it's a cedar or a redwood or a short
Looks
pine.
scary where you've got this brown
Yeah.
dead thing, and we get the calls every year.
Oh yeah, whatever. My plant looks like hell. you
Right,
know.
yeah, but it's just shedding.
It's just shedding, and this goes on in all conifers.
Right.
You know, deciduous trees drop their leaves and you rake them up and they go away. Conifers have a tendency to shed as they grow all year long. Inside. That's why you always find a certain carpet of pine needles underneath the little shore pines in
There
your
you
yard.
go.
Or ponderosa pines drop needles all year long.
Constantly molting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just the conifer process.
But this goes above and beyond the conifer process that you're talking about, the hedge.
In the hedge atmosphere, where the inner part of the plant never sees daylight, in there it gets pretty dead, pretty crispy, and yet the little leaf buds, the little needle buds, are still viable.
Really? Inside all of that
Inside,
dead, the spider webs?
Yeah,
the,
it's just the needles are dead. It's not the stems. And if you take and you just trim it off a little bit at a time, they regenerate. Well, if you go in and you do a massive whack, I mean, you take the old Black & Decker to it and you run along the side of it in a truck and you just, you mow like 50 feet.
Right,
you
you're
know,
taking
8 feet
limbs
tall,
off. You're
and
taking
limbs.
limbs.
off.
Right.
You start exposing all this dead stuff in the middle. And it does look pretty sinful.
Right.
But arborvitae, being the slow-growing little tree of choice for fences, has the amazing ability to start regenerating.
Once you put light on it.
Once you get light on the interior of it, you will start seeing little tiny green sprouts. And there's another hedge on around the corner where they've trimmed it off. But you go and look at it, and there's little quarter-inch green stems already starting. And they were all trimmed about the same time.
Yeah.
But because of the massive
Hedging?
well, I've got all these other adjectives that I could use.
It's
but
hedging.
Hedging, yeah. There's okay. I'll use that one. And it's actually hedged further into the plant than.
So the way you described it to me is you've got this perfectly good arborvitae fence that has been there for yorn years.
Yeah, since
and so
1970.
So big
whatever.
things, big changes hurt. And so somebody came along and thoughtfully pruned this thing, but it looks really scary.
Yeah.
But what they've actually done is by taking off this limb, which they felt it was time to take off, they've opened up the air so that it's got, you know, the term, you know, where the sun don't shine. That's
Yeah.
what happened is this area
That's what
was
it looks
where,
like is where the sun don't shine.
Exactly. Exactly. So now that the sun, though, is shining and we've got air flowing in there, you got this green stuff starting to happen, and it might take a year or 2 or 4,
Yeah,
but
I'm
it'll
thinking-
fill in the spalach. That's the thing about these arborvitae fence. I'm going to mispronounce it 15 different times.
Oh, yeah.
The thing about the fences, though, is they last dozens of years, and they only get taller for the most part, and that's why they're so incredible. But sometimes you got to whack them.
Well, it's one of the reasons that arborvitae are so popular is you can abuse them quite a bit. You can make it. I mean, you see them sculpted all over places, and in botanical gardens, they'll take and sculpt them into the shape of animals, and if that is
Edward Scissorhands made it
Yeah,
pretty popular by
yeah.
doing all of that. Yeah.
they trim them into shapes and forms and whole puzzle pieces, and it's just a tree.
The spiral arborvitae.
Yeah, there's another one like that, and then no tree grows like that.
No, you start whacking it like that, they get angry and die.
And people who do bonsai are very, very careful about taking off just millimeter sections of plant at a time. That's how the bonsai stays so perfect and so small, is it's very minute grooming.
Not drastic like what you witnessed. And that's why it gets kind of scary, is because that's what you think. Somebody doesn't know what they're doing.
Well, they might,
You think they got lucky, though. You think that they fell into the situation like, oh, yeah, I guess that was a good idea. Like an afterthought, because that's what your eyes are telling me. You don't think that it was intentionally opening up the circulation.
It might have been
a
bit of over-enthusiasm.
Okay, so the process was well-intended, but maybe
over-enthusiastic about doing it. Maybe there should have been a little more discussion with the person who's actually running the Black & Decker. Because he has the ultimate control at the end of we'll see how it turns out. But
well, hopefully, because again, a process like that is going to take years. Unless you are watering the heck out of it, it takes a while to grow an arm.
And these are places where you'd have to water it from the property side, not from the street side.
Oh, that sounds like there's logistics involved.
Yeah, there's a logistic issue, and there is actual arborvitae fertilizer.
Well, of course there is.
That would help them.
If there is money to be made, there
is. Actually, it's because they do require a little more alkaline fertilizer.
All right. Alkaline fertilizer.
Yeah.
Is it like the blueberries or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we just drop into some diseases and pests of the arborvitae. Gosh. Why can't I say that word? I say it 100 times.
You're doing pretty good with it.
Thanks. Common pest problems. We got the spider mites and the aphids. That's just the washing them off. Cold usually kills those too, if you can wait for the cold.
Which we didn't get this year, so
right. So we should expect heavy issues with that, right?
There's going to be some issues.
Bagworm. Yep. Good word.
It's a type of moth that the caterpillars actually feed on arborvitae, leaves and twigs, and they can turn something looking plumb sinful real quick.
You don't want to mess with something that sucks on the arborvitae. I mean, that's just not a good bug to be. That's a hardy bug. What do you eat? I eat arborvitae.
I've been nursing on the hedge.
Right. So then we've got the tip blight, and that's caused by fungus. So those are just some basic things that kind of just what you're going to have to deal with. But usually the big problem that people have with arborvitae is misdiagnosing the shedding.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's really there's nothing wrong with it. It's how it cleans itself up.
Yeah.
And if you go out and you give your arborvitae a good shake every now and then, a bunch of stuff will fall out of the bottom, and that's what it's decided to quit using.
And why they're also good for the Pacific Northwest, because particularly here in the valley when we get our dry summers, they're drought tolerant to an extent.
To some degree.
Right.
Yeah.
But their threshold might be a little bit lower than a lot of other plants, but they can take a little bit of a drier condition. But once they get dry, just like we were talking about last week with the tip diseases, they show drought signs pretty quickly once they do turn the corner on that. So
they get susceptible to tip blight pretty easy. And this year is going to be one of those years, because we didn't get that much winter rains and snow and ground moisture, that people are going to have to go out and give them a good soaking. And I don't mean spritz them with the
set the hose on and leave it there.
Yeah, the drip irrigation is the way to go.
Yeah.
And let it drip like for 12 hours overnight.
Yeah.
Just let it drizzle drip.
Right, because otherwise the water's just running away
it's just
from
going to
where
run
it
off
needs.
in the street, and it ain't going to do you any good anyway.
Yep. So that is really important, and I'm noticing that with all of my trees. I didn't take particularly good attention, but I had a couple of new cherry trees that I put in, and they're looking like I wasn't watering them enough, and I felt like I shouldn't have to here in the Willamette Valley. I shouldn't have to water them, but they're kind of angry, droopy leaves, just like, why aren't you watering me?
Well, if you see signs of your normal green arborvitae is starting to show signs of tanning or turning gold or yellow or anything like that. You can take a snip off a frond of it and bring it over to the extension office, and we'll put it underneath the microscope and see whether you got any of those other little buggers.
Science.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Well, not everybody has a microscope in their backyard.
Or in their study.
Or in their study.
Not everybody has a study.
Yeah.
We
got 20 of them for the insect lab.
And that's why you would bring it in to the extension office. The extension office here in Yamhill County, in McMinnville, at 2050 Lafayette Avenue. So and you just bring in, like you said, a snip and stick it under the microscope. Good idea. I did not have that in my head.
Some of these little guys are really, really tiny.
Mm-hmm.
The little spider mites are minuscule.
Right. But once they take off, they get taken off, and they'll get into those little cracks where you might not necessarily. They're not in for the sun. They like staying out of it, so they'll be in there sucking the sap out of it. Again, don't mess with something that sucks evergreens. I don't think anything.
No.
Have you ever, like those juniper bushes that people use as ground cover and those things that they die and you get the cobwebs and all the bugs underneath there. There's scary places.
Well, I lost a whole spruce tree to a microscopic aphid called the woolly adelgid. I'd never heard of it before.
I know. I remember the day that we talked about that on the show, and I'm so surprised that you remembered that, but it hit you so hard that you remembered the woolly adelgid.
Awesome. And they're an ugly little bugger. You get them underneath the microscope, they look like a mitten went bad.
Yeah. So why don't we take our last break?
Take a break.
When we come back, we'll talk about some May gardening things that should probably be done and thought about. But we've been talking about the arborvitae. We've got some nitrogen. But
be patient out there and see what happens.
That's right. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM.
AM 1260 KLYC. If you're looking for great barbecue, the place you need to go is Birch Chuck Wagon in Dundee. On the phone with us right now is Richard. Hey, Richard, what's cooking?
All kinds of good barbecue. We've got some brisket, pulled pork, ribs, all kinds of stuff going on this year.
You smoke all your barbecue and you use some kind of soaking material from the local wineries?
I purchased wine-soaked oak. It's bags, mesh bags full of oak. It gives it a real nice, mild flavor. The wonderful thing about it is when I first fire up the barbecue, the first thing that you smell is wine. So it makes it for a fantastic smoking wood.
And where are you located?
875 Highway 99W in Dundee, right in the middle of town on the right as you're going towards Newburgh, just before the new fire department.
And your phone number?
503-560-8855.
And if you're looking for great barbecue, the place you need to go is Birch Chuck Wagon in Dundee. And remember, if it ain't messy, it ain't good barbecue. Gotta move, but you need help? Do you have a last-minute move within a 60-mile radius of McMinnville? Call Hood to Coast Labor Force across from Mobil Gas Station in McMinnville. For only $50 per hour, a two-man crew will arrive and bring all the equipment they need to move you and your belongings. If you need a truck, rent one from Hood to Coast at a 10% discount. Call 503-474-1881, 474-1881. Did you know that a burglary occurs in this country once every 42 seconds, and that a home without a security system is up to 3 times more likely to be burglarized? D&D Electrical McMinnville wants to be your security contractor. D&D Electrical is a licensed low-voltage contractor and offers everything from intrusion to fire to digital surveillance and 24-hour central station monitoring. 503-472-4003. Ready to go to work for you right now. D&D Electrical McMinnville.
You're listening to The Root of It right here on
If you missed any of the show, you can catch it on YouTube. It will be up there. We are still streaming on Facebook, though. Just to close out the show, let's talk about some May calendar items. This calendar can actually be found extension.oregonstate.edu/yamhill. You go there, you click on the gardening calendar, and we like to bring this up every once in a while. And the first thing that caught my eye, Ray, was the plant dahlias, gladiola, and tuberous begonias.
You ain't going to believe what came up last week.
I'm
Remember when I told you I sawed off all the dahlias and I covered them up with mulch?
Right.
I got 9 of them back.
Mid-May.
In mid-May.
That's what they say.
They're up like 8 inches. And they seem to have just grown overnight. But
they got the fertilizer, right? I mean, they've got that, and they were like, ooh,
well,
we're a little warm now, too.
Yeah, they didn't get the fertilizer till they actually got up over the top of the soil. So they were like 6 inches tall before I seen them. Saw them.
No, you can say it. We like that little...
seen them there, folks.
Yeah, you're more believable as a gardener if you say that, right? So you've got these dahlias coming up, right? I really want my begonias to come out, especially the ones that I'm used to seeing, and these are the dark purple leaves with bright red flowers, and that's what I'm looking forward to, and I should see those.
When it starts getting up around 65 or 70, a little more consistently again, now that the soil is warm, the roots are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And we talk about this, the soil temperature. We've got basically 2 stages here in the Willamette Valley. We've got the 50-degree temperature. Once the soil temperature hits that, we start to see the growth. And then when we hit the 70-degree temperature, then that's where we start to see the growth of the later
the top
spring.
Half.
Right, exactly. So, and that's what we're looking forward to. So you got to be looking out for that. You can also plant your chrysanthemums for fall color. You know that?
Go ahead and do them now.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so the vegetables that you're looking to put in the ground right now, I went ahead and this week I put in some beans, just directly sowed them into the soil. I figured this is about the time to do that. I have not had any success with my beans that I have transplanted. They didn't make it.
They did not.
No, they got cold. Beans are more sensitive than I thought.
They are. They're wimpy little fellers.
They need it to be warm, and by warm, we're looking at about 70 degrees for some reason. Yeah. I had thought that they might be a little bit more cold tolerant.
Peas are cold tolerant.
See, and that's what it is. And they seem like they should be the same animal, but they're not, right?
No, they're a different batch of cats. Yeah. The peas you can plant them when the ground temperature's like 40.
Yeah.
And
that's probably what I was thinking. Tell me more.
Yeah, they'll start going for it. Mm-hmm. Cucumbers are another one that if you plant them too early, you get nothing.
Right.
Because they may even sprout, and then the molds and the mildews on the top of the soil eat their little stems off.
And we call that dampening.
Yep. They just tip over.
So and good point. That's something that I need to look out for, because I've got some lemon cucumbers that have sprouted out from the ground on their own, because that's where they died, and so they're coming back up. And I need to be aware of that, because when I'm watering them, I'm being careful to not water overhead, because that's not something you want to do. So I'm watering around them, but they get that wild drop that lands right smack on the top of the plant, and it sits there.
If you want to save some of those, take a milk carton and cut the bottom out of it, and use it for a little greenhouse. Just set it over the top of it and put a stake down through the center to keep the carton there.
God, that's an awesome idea. I have so many of those milk cartons.
Just whack off the bottom. You only need about a 10-inch top of it, because you only need it to grow up
to that high,
and then you can take the top off.
It's all on its
own.
And
then by that time, the weather will be warm enough to where it'll actually go. But that will protect it from wind, from bugs, from cold temperatures, molds, mildews.
But that's the important thing, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because even when I was watering the corn too, again, not from overhead, but you get that drop, and the plants are almost designed to do that, but they don't know that they can do themselves more harm by being designed to keep that water right there, particularly at this time. If it's getting cold and you get that mold right on top, dampening occurs, and so just something else to be aware of. But what else can we be planting right now?
Well, you can go ahead and put the tomatoes in.
Okay.
I mean, everybody's already put them in.
I hope so.
And they sat there and they look at them for like 3 weeks.
I didn't know why mine wasn't moving.
It just sits there and looks at you like, you did what to my roots? Come on.
Exactly.
Give
But
me
it
a
needs
break here,
that
human.
time to spread out.
Yeah.
And so it's spending a lot of energy on root growth and not up growth. But
And
then once you get the root growth, then you get the up growth.
Right.
And so it all starts to
And
take off.
once after the 1st of June, we start getting the warmer days, they'll take right off.
Yeah, my indigo ones that I put in, I put in a group early, and I put in a group just a couple of weeks after it, and they're pretty much even right now. So it's what I was concerned with was that they the ones that I put in early, they weren't going to do anything, and they were going to just stagnate at being low. But what's really happened is that the other ones had to play catch up too, because they needed to produce some roots, and so right now I'm dealing with essentially the same size. Science.
Brought
weird.
I brought some corn seed home from our little winter adventure.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
This is the blue corn
This
that you're
is the
talking
blue
about.
corn.
And I hope that you get to give us updates on the blue corn throughout the season.
You ain't
because
going to believe what that stuff is doing.
You're going to tell me.
I'm going to tell you. I may even take pictures of this little row of puppies.
Yeah.
It's designed and genetically engineered, by God for 3,000 years to grow at 7,000 feet elevation. It's what the Indians brought up. 3,000 years ago, they brought up the corn, and this is what they planted because it would grow at high altitudes.
Right.
As soon as the snowfall was gone, they'd plant these cornfields. So I got a bunch of it from this guy, just a little Ziploc bag full, and I planted it over at the community garden.
Yes.
2 weeks ago. It's already up about 10 inches tall. Every single seed germinated.
That's awesome. That's really good. It's designed to do that, right?
Could not believe what it is doing.
So here's the thing. You came to my garden. You saw my corn.
Yeah.
In its state. And how was your... Mine, we're looking at about 6-8 inches maybe.
But you started yours in the house.
I started, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Ray. No, and that's a really good point. It did start in the house, and the soil should not be warm enough for corn to germinate,
No,
and that's I think
it
the point that
should
you're
not
trying
be.
to try and make. You shouldn't be. Well, maybe now you should be putting the corn in directly.
Yeah, you
sowing
can go
in the
ahead and
soil.
sow it now.
But 2 weeks ago was not a good
No,
time.
It was pretty chilly yet. And
Except for this blue corn that you
Except for
have.
this blue corn. It germinated, it sprouted, and it's about 10 inches tall.
Awesome! I cannot wait to
It's
to get a kernel off of that.
I'm just looking at it and going, huh.
I want you to make some blue chips. That's what I need to something.
Oh, we'd have to have a field of it. But I will get you some seed.
Yeah, then we'll have a field of it, right?
I'll give you a whole ear.
All right. You didn't sign a contract. It's not.
No. The Indians died like 1,900 years ago.
All right. So it's okay to propagate and give seeds out as gifts. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Ray, it's 10 o'clock.
Okay. Well,
you're not disappointed. So great. He's like, okay, great. Let's get out of here.
Oh no, I got I got a list an arm long.
Yeah, good. So why don't we take off? But I really have enjoyed this show talking about nitrogen. We've been talking about arborvitae and the yellowing that happens every spring here in Willamette Valley. And so hopefully we can solve those problems moving forward.
Yeah, be patient with your gardens, friends. Be patient with nature doing what it needs to do at its own pace. I know people want things to be absolutely perfect and beautiful, and they plant giant things. But in the case of the hedge, let's watch that one for a little, a couple of years before we panic.
Right. So speaking to the hedge, don't go ahead and lop it all off at once. Take a little bit at a time.
Don't hook up the log and choker to the 4x4 and yank it out.
Yeah. So
I've
speaking to
that one.
Speaking to that point, you've been listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC. Replays on YouTube. Just search YouTube KLYC to The Root of It. And then we're always streaming up there on Facebook,
Yep.
so if you want to leave some comments there too, that's where you can find us. And as Ray always says,
keep your tools sharp.